All right, we're back. We're live. Yeah, I think I know what happened, ladies and gentlemen. It is raining here in Milwaukee. It is pouring rain outside. I think we had some technical issues with some of the storms that are happening, but we are live. We're gonna get right to the beer review though, because I want to make sure that we can get this in at least before something else happens. Knock on wood, nothing else happens, but you never know. It's technology. Stuff is inevitably going to happen. I am Juan at Bears Fanatic 194. Luke is with me here at lberry_40. Mugs Chugs Lounge is the beer review page. The Lounge Room Network, of course, is at Lounge Room Net. So, Luke, you've got a beer for us tonight, sir. What are you sipping on? Let's see it. Go ahead and give us your description, and then we'll get to the review.
So you can't get more Boston than Sam Adams. Fortunately, Sam Adams comes out with a ton of different beers seasonally. So this is one I haven't tried yet. This came in a variety pack. There's about 12 beers in here, 4 different types, 3 of each. So this is the Beach Session IPA. It's a 4.7% alcohol by volume. Supposed to have a lot of like peachy and grapefruity notes to it. So at least that's what the description says. So I'm excited to try this one. Juan, what are you sipping on over there?
Tonight, I have I'm featuring a Lakefront brew. Yesterday, I actually drank this one yesterday, and people were saying that I was drinking Pepto Bismol with carbonated water, which is obviously horrendously gross. But this is a raspberry Nimbus, raspberry lime ale, courtesy of our friends over at Lakefront Brewery. It is a local beer. Brewed here in Milwaukee, as you can see, very colorful design up there. Raspberry. This particular beer is 4.8%, so it is a little bit less, I think, than a standard Miller Lite, if I'm not mistaken. I think Miller Lite sits at just 5.0, but yes, this is again Lakefront Brewery here in the Brew City in Milwaukee. Raspberry Nimbus, raspberry lime ale for you guys tonight. So I'm going to crack this open. In the meantime, though, I will let Luke talk about that beer he has in his hand over there. And
well, Juan, you actually brought up an interesting point. This being an IPA is only 4.7%, so I'm interested to see how this tastes. Normally with an IPA, you're probably looking at anything over 6%, it's a little more potent. So I'm guessing this is probably a more palatable summer IPA, only coming in at 4.7. Probably get some of that hoppiness though that you love in an IPA and a lot of those fruity notes. So here I did pour. It's like a nice yellowish orange color, pretty cloudy. You can't see through the glass there. And as our friend Mr. Smith here on the our fellow Mugs and Chugs member, this is a Treehouse Brewing glass. They just opened back up here, and I'm excited to get out there and eventually do a live review there. I know I sent you a few pictures of it the other day, and you said it looked.
Yes, I am. I'm totally looking forward to that because the pictures you were sending over, I was looking at them and I'm like, wow, that looks like a really cool place. It looks like a really cool spot, and obviously I'm always down to look at beers and whatnot and pictures. But yes, shout out to the Terrapin Brewery. This is their glass. As you can all tell in this with this beer, it's very red. Hence, right, the raspberry, the name, the raspberry in the beer. But another thing is that it does have lime in it, but the lime doesn't. You don't get the taste of lime until after the beer goes down. So immediately you get hit with the raspberry, the tardiness of the raspberry, but then the lime kind of, in a way, almost neutralizes some of that more bitterness, tardiness of the raspberry, and it kind of has a more mellow aftertaste. I know that sounds really weird because you're looking at me like, oh, it's lime. How can you put the words lime and mellow together? I mean,
it just sounds like a chaser the way you're describing
it. Yes. Well, take a shot like JMO or something, and then just chase this down with the beer.
Yeah. So immediately with this one, like I said, kind of just what I imagined. The 4.7%. I mean, it's super light. It goes down really easy for an IPA. So if you aren't a big IPA drinker, you would probably enjoy drinking this because it gives you everything else you like in it without that really kind of hoppy aftertaste that a lot of people don't like. So this is definitely a really good beer for summer if you're sitting on the beach or sitting outside. You get the aroma is just like a lot of tropical fruit, kind of like I said. And that's kind of the first taste that hits you in the mouth is like that real fruity flavor. I'm sure yours is even more probably just punch you in the face with raspberry, right, Juan?
I'm tasting this now, and actually, so yesterday when I was drinking this, it was very cold. I had just pulled it out of my fridge. However, now this one that I'm drinking right now, this has been sitting out for a few minutes, so it's not as cold as I would like. But now that it's been sitting at room temperature and that it's not strictly, cold beer straight out of the fridge, I almost taste the bitterness actually a little bit more from the lime right as it's going down. Whereas yesterday it was more kind of in the secondary effect of the lime taste, right? So, and I know Jared, I see Jared just jumped in the comments here. He was actually telling me about how different beers, right, are served at different temperatures, letting it sit at room temp, kind of get some of those flavors to kind of adapt to the temperature, right, where the beer is sitting. And I think with this beer, right, this particular beer here, I think that scientific rule, or whatever it is, chemical balance or whatever, but the taste, it definitely it applies to this one because again the flavor has switched. The sourness and the bitterness hits you at different levels now, at different paces. So this might alter my rating a little bit now, actually, now that I'm tasting it at more of a balanced room temperature. And yes, Jared, if you're wondering, if you're watching on the live stream, this is the beer that I am currently drinking right here. It's called the Raspberry Nimbus, and it is a raspberry lime ale, courtesy of Lakefront Brewing here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Luke has a Samuel Adams beer there. There's the can. Nice color on that too, by the way. It's like a pinkish like salmon color. It's an IPA. So, yes, and Jared saying much better than the chugging it ice cold. Yes, that is very, very true. Yesterday I chugged this, like straight out of the fridge. I don't think I could chug this right now in this temperature of the beer. I couldn't chug this.
How is the carbonation of that? For some reason, I just imagine that almost being more like a seltzer, but it's a beer. It's not like as carbonated as like a seltzer.
This particular beer, even yesterday when I had it cold, it's not very carbonated. Now, I do have another one over here, and I wasn't gonna do two, but just the River West. This is a River West Stein, I believe that's how you say it. It's an amber lager, again courtesy of Lakefront Brewing. This one was even smoother, less carbonated than this raspberry one I'm sipping on right now. So I don't know if that's just a theme of Lakefront Brewing, if they just tend to not carbonate their beer so much, or if it's just these two beers that are just a little less potent with the carbonation aspect. But these two beers go down very smooth. Now this other one is 6%. So we'll get on. We'll start doing the ratings on these here in a little bit, because for those who are watching in the live stream here at about 7:00, it is 7:00 now. Usaid and AJ will actually be joining us here on the live stream to talk some Chicago Bears. But first, I want to get these ratings out of the way here, and then we can move on to sports talk for the night. But how are you rating your beer, Luke?
So for this one, I think for someone who maybe doesn't like IPAs, this is probably going to get a higher rating than what I'm going to give it, because I think
Mhm.
it tastes really good, but I prefer something a little bit stronger, something to get to your taste buds a little bit more. But if you don't like IPAs that much and are just getting into them, I
Mhm.
think this beer would be really good to kind of get people started off with. I know we said that in another episode.
Right.
For me personally, I'm going to give this probably a 7.3. I think it's a solid beer. I think it's really good to sip on, easy to drink. You can probably drink a lot of them in the summertime. But for
Mhm.
me personally, I would just like a little more flavor out of it.
All right, 7.3 out of 10. Look at that. Okay. I was actually expecting it. I was actually expecting you to give it like a 6.5, honestly.
Yeah, no, I
But
think,
no,
well,
seven. I think 7.3 is fair. I mean, 7.3 is fair.
what brought it up for me, like I said, is I think for me personally, might be a little bit more biased than someone
Mm-hmm.
who doesn't like IPAs as much. So
Right.
that's why I just bumped it up a little bit there. I think
Mm-hmm.
for the casual beer drinker, it's a pretty good beer, especially for an
Mm-hmm.
IPA.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, it's a respectable rating. I think I think it's fair. It's honest. But yeah, no, for this one, this raspberry lime beer that I've got here, again, people get turned off by lime and lemon beers. Kind of, they think it hits too hard on the palate. It's too sour, it's too bitter. But even this one, I mean, if you're drinking it straight out of the fridge, ice cold, you're not really gonna get that strong of acidity. But if you do let it sit out for a little bit, like I have here for the last 15 minutes or so, it is going to have a little more intensity when it comes to the citrusy flavor. Some of the hops will also you'll get some of that as well. Not very hoppy, but you get it just enough that you can kind of taste it. Uh, this is a fruity beer. It is not sweet, but it's still fruity. Um, I could probably drink some of these in the summer outside, but I couldn't go my whole time spending outside drinking this. But I'm gonna go with a straight 7 on this. I think a 7 out of 10 is, I think it's fair. Uh, Again, I would recommend this to people if they are looking to try something a little bit different. But yes, I'm gonna roll with the 7 and just will I buy it again? Maybe. I mean, if I see it at the store shelf, I'd probably pick it up. But yes, with that being said, that concludes the beer part of the show. Now we're gonna go ahead and add in our friends AJ, and then Usaid will be joining us here in a second. But uh, again, for those who were watching the beer review just now, thank you. I see Nick is saying a straight rating. That's a rookie rating. Okay, well, Nick is always hopping in here to trash talk, and Nick actually might join us here a little bit later on to talk sports. I told him to come on. He said he would. He said he'd consider it. So we will see what he says about joining us. But AJ, how's it going, dude? What's going on? Happy Friday.
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. How's it going?
It's going pretty good. It's nice to have you on. Welcome to our beer review / Friday night live show. We got a little bit going on here, kind of all over the place. I see that Usaid is here's going to join us on the stream. There he is. Usaid, what's going on, dude? How's it going? What's up, man?
It's going well, man. How is everything? Can you actually hear me, by the way?
So yes, I can hear you now. Your feed is a little bit delayed, but yes, I can hear you.
I was about to say, where's my man Luke at?
Yeah, Luke disappeared on us here for a little bit. Luke.
What's up, buddy?
StreamYard
Luke?
did not like when those two joined.
All right. Well, guys, it's good to have you guys on. It's I know it's kind of been a long time coming, at least with meeting Usaid and having him on as well. To come and join the show. I know we even before the past few months just trying to get Usaid trying to get you on and having you come on and talk Chicago sports with us, of course. So we'll dive into that, but I know there was some other stuff we wanted to talk about too, and we can certainly cover all of that. I am reading some of the comments here, and of course, Brandon does comments that Chicago sucks. So we're not going to tolerate that slander. I'm not even going to show that comment in the up on the screen because I'm gonna leave all the negativity. I'm gonna leave it all out the door. It's not going to happen. Let's go ahead and get started, though. I want to talk. I really want to talk Justin Fields. I want to talk about this Chicago Cubs appearance today at the ballpark. Standing ovation on the north side of Chicago at Wrigley Field. I am not a Cubs fan by any means. AJ, you know this. You're a Cubs fan. You know how much trash I talk about the north side all the time. But my God, I will tip my hat to the north side for that standing ovation that they gave to our dude QB1 Justin Fields. Your thoughts, AJ, on this beautiful presentation by the Chicago audience this morning, or this afternoon?
You know, there's nothing better than obviously a bunch of people just happy, just crowd roaring about Justin Fields and stuff. Obviously, you know, it's a great moment. Chicago hasn't seen like something like that before since the Jay Cutler days or Sid Luckman days, if you want to go back even further. But you know, it's the beginning of a new era. And hello, Brandon. And yes, you're never going to get my Kobe jersey. It's never going to happen.
That's the only thing Brandon was looking at in the background. I actually noticed that jersey. Do you want to talk about that jersey a little bit? Like, where did you acquire it? What's the history behind the jersey back there that you've got?
So this jersey goes back to when the Lakers beat the Suns back in 2010, and they advanced on to the finals. And that year was the Boston Celtics. The Celtics beat the Lakers in 2008, and then the Lakers won in 2009 against the Magic, and then the 2010 were the Boston Celtics. So I went to the store at that time. The jerseys were being sponsored by NBA and all that. They were officially NBA sponsored and stuff. So I just went into the shop and just got it at Staples Center at the pro shop. Costed me a lot, but I mean, ended up winning the championship that year. Got to see Kobe live. One of the moments that get to see that person live and play basketball was obviously better than the great that we have right now on our team. No, I will be vocal about that. LeBron James isn't anything special to the Lakers organization. It's just been a business move to him. I mean, I saw him sipping wine before live. I went to LA in 2018. I saw him sipping wine on the sidelines. I mean, it's just a business move for him. I mean, the man's just trying to win as much championships as he can before he retires and gives Bronny the whole thing. But
so obviously you're a Lakers fan, AJ. I mean, I can talk to you. We could talk Lakers all night. I mean, we're not going to.
Sure.
But obviously Kobe died in 2020. I mean, that goes without a given, right? As a Lakers fan, I'm sure that his passing affected you in probably a much different way, right? Than a standard obviously it hit us all, right? It affected us all, but I'm sure for a Lakers fan, it was a lot more, it was deeper than just,
Definitely. I mean, I did hear some rumblings. Obviously, my sister does live in the Calabasas area, in the Thousand Oaks area, just about maybe a mile away from the helicopter crash. She saw something smoking in her backyard, but she did hear a loud bang when it went down. She didn't think much of it. She just went to do her groceries and stuff. And then when she came back, there was the cops and stuff. There was ambulances and all of that. So, and then I look on TMZ, obviously one of our boys in our chat, Joa, who's been on the show before.
Yes. Shout out to Joa.
Yeah, definitely.
If Joe is watching, we have an open invite. You can come and talk communism with us. We're all here
definitely.
For it.
Come on in here, you little commie. Love to talk some jokes, man. Awesome. But I mean, it did shock LA because the TMZ report came out and it said that Kobe Bryant is dead and from a helicopter accident. None of us believed it at first, but TMZ is a reputable source. I mean, they broke the Ray Rice stuff and all of that stuff. So I mean, they've hit the nail on the head pretty well, or I don't know how to say that saying. But you know, they're pretty accurate out there. So as the news collected and everything, the Lakers, 2 or 3 o'clock at that time, they made their statement about it, because that's when it all came together. That's when everyone started to gather around Staples Center and see what happened and stuff. You know, my sister, she lives in Calabasas, and then she went downtown that night to see what actually went down. And then everyone is like gathered around Staples Center. Something so beautiful that you've never seen in your life, Juan. Purple, gold, white, everyone in 2-4, everyone in 8. Just, this is big in basketball. This was not a revitalizing moment, but a ground shaking moment in basketball when a great has passed away. And, you know, I mean, to me, obviously I saw him live so many times when I was 6. I saw him live in the 2001 finals. You know, all these memories with him. I saw over like 25 plus games with him at Staples Center, you know, just overall, you know, just, he brought that energy in Staples Center. You know, like I remember this time when Byron Scott was our head coach and we went 17-65. We still sold out tickets at Staples Center, you know, and that was the whole point. Like, you know, when like, you know, I'm going to end it off on here, you know, I mean, like the whole point about Kobe's death and stuff and how it affects Lakers fans, it's just, you know, it hurts, but like, you know, we move on, but then we see, like, I'm not crapping on LeBron or anything. Well, we have someone that like did win us the championship, but like, you know, the heroics on the court and all that nonsense, Kobe didn't do that. Like, you know, when Matt Barnes tried to double flinch Kobe Bryant on the court, you didn't see Kobe Bryant like fall back and do a cartwheel or anything. If you guys remember that whole Matt Barnes and Kobe Bryant incident, like they were on the same team together in the 2009 team, and then 2010 they broke up, and then that year they played each other, and then there was this ball Matt Barnes tried to make Kobe Bryant flinch. And Kobe Bryant didn't move a muscle. He's just standing there. If you're going to inbound the ball or not, man, you're just a kid. You're not going to hurt me. You know, I think in that case, LeBron James would have like done a cartwheel and would have been on the floor for like a minute or so. I mean, you know, it's flop city. It is. I mean, I'm supporting it out there. You know, him in his Space Jam and his shop and stuff, and whatever he decides to do in the future. I mean, good luck to him, but just bring me one more championship, please. Like, and like, it's gonna fall more on AD than it does to him. I mean, AD is the guy that we have to build on the future. He's here longer than LeBron is. So. I'm gonna leave that LeBum comment up for at least 5 minutes if you don't. No, mind. It's fine. I mean, I don't care. I mean, like, look, guys, hang on. I rep this team. Not the player. This team, not the player. Never. I think I see Nick commenting Lemicky. I might have to put that one up too. That's pretty good. You say it. You're finally up, and he left. There he is. You say it. I gotta properly introduce you to the show, man. I mean, there were some technical difficulties. I can't let you just slide in here and not get a proper introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Usaid. He is he's one of the co-hosts of the, oh God, what's the name of your podcast, Usaid? Don't hate me. The Fireside Bears. The Fireside Bears. You can catch them live. They go live on Twitter. They have an awesome show. I've jumped on there a few times to watch and to listen, you know, to the Chicago Bears commentary, which is of course always on point, and it is always excellent. Usaid, I know I met you back in September of 2019, I believe it was, at the Chicago Bears season opener down in Chicago, the 100th season. Respect your work. Respect all the stuff that you do, you know, all the content you put out, all the coverage you provide for the hometown team down at Hallis Hall, the Chicago Bears. Truly, you know, you do awesome work, man. How are you? How's it going?
I am doing well. Thanks so much for bearing with me with the technical difficulties. I'm excited to be back on here back on your show for the second time. 'Cause I know the last time we did something was on this goes all the way back to the 2020 draft where you were doing
Yes.
I think it was a live stream, and I was just like, all right, I will be in and out of the night. And it's funny enough because I get, and AG will tell you this, right? I get so many, requests each week and stuff to be on this podcast and that podcast that it's almost like this podcasting, this writing, it's not my full-time thing yet. But it's just I feel like I do it full time because yesterday, for example, I worked a double shift at work, but I somehow still managed to crank out 5 articles, and I was really looking forward to this tonight. And I actually just got home from work an hour ago, and I was so tired to the point where I was just like, dude, I don't even want to shower, but I'm gonna get up and shower and at least look semi-decent for this pod.
Well, hey, I truly appreciate the effort, and trying to clean up and look good for the for the live stream, of course. I want to pick your brain a little bit though, you said, because again, I know you're a smart guy, obviously your football and everything that's going on, but I want to obviously dive into the Chicago Bears and the whole situation that's going on obviously with this QB battle, right? And we've got Andy Dalton, we've got Nick Foles, we've got Justin Fields. I mean, there's so much happening. So much is changing so rapidly. Of course, we as Bear fans are not as fortunate as our neighbors to the north in Green Bay, who get to watch footage of OTAs and watch everything go down. Our media is literally like East and West Germany. I think I made this comment on social media. I was like, the way that they have this Hallis Hall is basically a fortress. You can't get in. No one can get out. I need your perspective. What do you think, or what do you think is happening behind the scenes, right, where the cameras aren't looking with Justin Fields and his reps that he's getting in? I need some substance. I need some thoughts.
Yeah, I've said this all throughout the offseason, and I do 2 shows a week. Just one of it's Fireside Bears, like you mentioned. The second one is Picks for Pace, which is brought to you by the Bear Report, which is actually a credentialed Bears outlet. So we've got someone at Hallis Hall actually covering the Bears. And on both pods, I've said pretty much the same thing, just in terms of anytime you have a rookie quarterback that's drafted to any NFL team, there's a high level of excitement. But here in Chicago, when you have a player of Justin Fields' caliber, I mean, it makes things so much more exciting. I mean, Fields, there's a graphic that I know was floating around social media a couple weeks ago where they talked about the top 5 selling jerseys, and Justin Fields was 3, 4, and 5 on there. So it's definitely exciting. And then because you have a diehard team diehard fan base like the Bears, that Chicago's a Bears first town, always has been. I mean, I was living in the city actually that 2018 season, and every Monday when the Bears would win, there was a different feeling in the air. And then the 2019 season, they went 8-8, and it's just every Monday when they lost, there was a terrible feeling in the air. So it's truly special. But in terms of what's going on behind the scenes now, you never really know. But when you look at last week compared to this week, I mean, last week the reports were, oh my God, Andy Dalton's kind of picking the offense up fast. And I was just like, look, this is good because if the Bears don't start Justin Fields week 1, at least we have a competent veteran quarterback that's going to be playing, that's going to be able to hold the fort down until Justin Fields is ready to start. And then then this entire week, it's been Justin Fields is blowing the coaches away. So in a way, man, it's just really exciting, and then you look at the offensive line for the Bears. I mean, that's an exciting unit because if that starting 5, if that front 5 starts to gel, what you're going to see is the running back David Montgomery, who's primed for a true breakout year in year 3. He's going to take off and I think become one of the best running backs in the NFL. And then the wide receiver core, I mean, we know what we have in your guy, Allen Robinson. I wish he would sign a long-term extension for the sake of Justin Fields. But then you have Darnell Mooney, who's coming off a rookie season where he didn't even get enough credit NFL league-wide for what he did. And then all of a sudden, now you're hearing the reports of these quarterbacks being able to hit these guys in stride and anticipate where these guys are going to be at what time and perfect ball placement, which means that players like Mooney, who thrive with more accurate quarterbacks, are going to really see an uptick in production. So it's exciting. I would say just behind the scenes, man, they're building to the point where you will see a bit of a better offense this year.
It's actually funny that we just highlighted that tweet that came up because I was literally about to ask you, say that question.
Yes, I
So,
saw that and I'm like, I wanted to ask that too. But anyway, go ahead, Luke.
well, on our Believe in Monsters podcast here at Lounge Room Network, we had MVS Scouting on from Pro Football Network on our podcast, and he was not as big of a fan as the Tevin Jenkins pick as many of us Bears fans were, and many of the high members of the media were. And he cited a big concern about Jenkins is that he's a natural right tackle. He has really short arms, and his anchor strength quite isn't up to par with what you would want out of a traditional left tackle. I mean, do you have any concern there? You say with Jenkins playing left tackle immediately and starting there for the Bears? Because I tend to agree with MVS Scouting. I think he might struggle there to start, especially the NFL is just a whole new ball game, and that's a brand new position.
Yeah, well, first things first. Okay, I might just have to DM Matt because I do remember listening to that episode because I know Matt personally, by the way.
He's
and
also
in one of his
by the way. You should follow him.
The thing is I've known Matt for a couple of years, and I know in one of his mock drafts for Pro Football Network, he actually had the liberty of mocking Justin Fields to Washington, and then when he was challenged about it, later admitted he's just like, oh, I've written all these mock drafts throughout the last couple of months, so at least one of them I had to mock Fields to Washington. Someone else that I know in a group chat that we have called Matt out for it, but he's a great follow. Go check out his work. Now, I think that what it is that Jenkins played pretty much all 5 positions on the offensive line at Oklahoma State under Mike Gundy. And you're getting a guy who is a multi-year starter. Now, naturally, he's going to struggle. Well, let's just be honest, man. And Luke, you know football real well. I know AJ knows it well. Juan, you know a lot of stuff too. The reality of this situation is there's always going to be a learning curve at left tackle. There's going to be a learning curve at any position when you're going from college to the NFL. But in left tackle, it's a lot more important, specifically because it is the second most important position on the offensive line because it's an investment in whoever your quarterback is, right? And if you protect your quarterback, your entire offense will automatically click. No, I'm not really concerned because this is Jenkins' nastiness, his attitude, his demeanor. That's something that offensive line coach Juan Castillo looks for in his offensive lineman. And I said that it was going to be hard for the Bears to replace both Leno and Massey this offseason, and a lot would have to fall their way for them to do it. But the reality is Jenkins is getting that start at left tackle immediately. And from day one, they're grooming him to be a true left tackle at the NFL level. And there's a big difference between playing tackle at college level as well as playing at the NFL level. And guys just have a much smoother transition when they are playing left tackle or when they start at a certain position day one. So there's a bit of a concern because there is a big learning curve. But then again, it's just like I said. I mean, he's played pretty much every single position but center. I believe that when he was at Oklahoma State, Jenkins, I think, started 3 games at left tackle back in 2018 or 2019. So he has the experience there. It's just going to be a matter of refining all that technique. And, I'll even throw this out there. I mean, the guy slipped all the way to 39. Who's to say that another team didn't have, and this is a player that, again, the national media actually had mocked as a first-round draft pick, a top 20 guy. So who's to say that the Bears got their hands on Jenkins, but what if another team decided to draft Tevin Jenkins and play him at left tackle? There's a role for these guys, and Jenkins' versatility has really showcased that. And you know what? All Juan Castillo wants is to basically throw defensive players onto the ground and for his offensive linemen to be able to impose their will, because the Bears have not had that the last couple of years, and now a guy like Jenkins is going to fully provide that.
Is this Anthony Miller's breakout year?
Yeah,
honestly,
I know. We've said that. We have said that for the past 2 seasons now, 1 season, season or season and a half, that we're all like, this is it. This is Anthony Miller's year. This is his breakout year. It's going to happen. Doesn't really happen. We say it again last year. This is his breakout year. This is the breakout year. So it's not really. Justin Fields is here. Is it Anthony Miller's turn to see the spotlight?
Well, I think with Anthony Miller, there's a couple things to look at because I've had him as a breakout candidate the 2019 as well as the 2020 off seasons. But this year it's a bit different, and it's different this year because the last 2 off seasons, we have to realize that Anthony Miller was pretty much guaranteed a roster spot. So if he showed up and performed in camp, but he didn't necessarily, but it may not have showed in games sometimes, you know what? Then Anthony Miller would have effectively been a guy that would have still made the roster, just because there was pretty much him, Allen Robinson, and then, like I say, Taylor Gabriel, but then also everyone else. And then now with the emergence of Darnell Mooney, look, that's a bad look for any player in the NFL anytime you get outplayed by a 5th-round draft pick. And so for Anthony Miller, the situation and circumstances this year are very different because unlike the last couple of years, he's not guaranteed any roster spot. So he's really going to have to show in training camp that, you know what, I can hang with the big guys. I can hang with the likes of Marquise Goodwin and Damiere Byrd and a couple other of the wide receivers that the Bears have. Now, I still think he's going to make the roster. It's just going to be a matter of how much playing time you're going to get, because now that the Bears have a quarterback in Fields who they can run pretty much any play with, because Fields can hit any throw on the field, what will effectively end up happening is they might just decide to use different types of personnel. So if they go with more 11 personnel, which 11 personnel in football terminology, for those of you guys that don't know, that's 1 running back, 1 tight end, and 3 wide receivers. And if you're running that 3 receiver set, you're going to have Robinson, Mooney, and Miller. And so if they go with more 11 personnel looks, then you know what you're getting is you're going to get more of Anthony Miller out there. But if they go like 12 personnel, which is a running back and 2 tight ends, then you're only going to have 2 wide receivers, which could be Mooney and Robinson, and not necessarily Anthony Miller. So for Miller this year, he's just really tough to predict. But everything that's come out of Halas Hall when talking to coaches this offseason is just that, hey, look, we legitimately do not 100% need you around. And unlike the last couple of years, this year, we're legitimately going to make you work. And the Bears have been here before where in terms of they've told players going into contract years, hey, it's put up or shut up time. And usually those guys end up putting up big numbers. I mean, look at Kyle Fuller in 2017, I believe it was. He, misses all of 2016, bounces back in 2017, earns a big extension that 2018 offseason. So Miller is really in that same category this year. But I also think with Bears fans, like, you have to temper your expectations for him. And you can't just sit there and be like, oh, my God, because we have Justin Fields and Andy Dalton now, what's going to happen is you're all of a sudden going to see Anthony Miller become a guy who breaks out for 1,100 yards. I mean, I would argue this. Anthony Miller, to me right now, he's just the guy who's going to get 40, 50, 60 receptions this season and play 60, 70, 80, 60 to 70% of the snaps to be really realistic. And he's going to be a 600 to 700 yard guy. I hope I'm wrong, but everything you've seen the first 3 seasons dictates that he's nothing more than a wide receiver 3 at this point.
I love Anthony Miller. Everyone hates him. I feel like so many people just don't like him because of his on the field attitude. Of course, we can all reminisce on the New Orleans game this past season where he got into it with what's his name on the Saints team. I forget who we got into it with.
Chauncey Gardner-Johnson.
Yeah, and that whole incident happened. Obviously, that was a clownish move. I mean, I'm not gonna deny that, but I just feel like the guy gets so much hate, and it's like, I get it. He does stupid things. I mean, a lot of players do, but it's like, I just feel like he gets slandered a lot, and I don't know. I have his jersey. I have Anthony Miller's jersey in my wardrobe. I mean, I like the guy. I think he's a decent wide receiver. Now, like you said, is this his make or break year? I mean, probably. I mean, the Chicago Bears are probably like, get it together. You're going to get the hell out. I mean, that's what it comes down to. It's a business. I mean, I don't know. Luke, were you going to say? Go ahead, Luke, if you were going to make a comment.
I have 2 things to add to this, just for a little bit of context. I think with us knowing, I think we all can agree Matt Nagy is a pretty stubborn guy. With all the kind of shade he threw at Anthony Miller for running the wrong routes and doing, stuff like he did versus New Orleans, he's still on this team. He didn't trade him for a 7th-round pick or a 6th-round pick, which he could have easily done. Anthony Miller's still on this roster for a reason. So I think the coaching staff still believes there's something to work with there. And my second point is, I think with Anthony Miller, a guy like Trubisky had to operate in an offense with a lot of structure, where I think Justin Fields is a bit more athletic, where in the manner of, or at least we hope in the manner of Russell Wilson, he can keep plays open with his legs, keep his eyes downfield, which he showed he can do in college. And for a guy like Anthony Miller, that's great because after the route breaks down and he kind of just has to get open, I think that's something that Anthony Miller can thrive in. And with Fields at QB being able to extend plays, that could be a huge bonus for Anthony Miller. So we'll really see if he puts it all together, and we'll see if Justin Fields can help him in that aspect. But I mean, Anthony Miller's route running is really good when he runs the right route. So we'll see. What do you say, prediction? If he came out with 600 or 700 yards, I'd be fine with that, just because I think Darnell Mooney's due for about that too. So I think you're going to have to kind of split that wide receiver two between those two, because I think Darnell Mooney is going to have almost just as good of a year as Anthony Miller.
And I see in the one of the comments here I highlighted was, Jared says, Miller is gifted and hopefully he can thrive at wide receiver 3. I mean, all of the predictions, at least the way it's looking now, I mean, they all pretty much lean towards that being the case. I mean, I really don't see how we wouldn't be able to thrive with the quarterback that we have now, with Justin Fields. I mean, I don't know. Unless if one of you guys has a different opinion on that, obviously please feel free to correct me. But I think he would be an excellent wide receiver 3 behind, A-Rod.
Even then, I mean, like, if even Andy Dalton starts and Justin Fields needs a couple of weeks, right? And just like you said, you have the 3 wide receivers out on the field. You have Robinson, you have Mooney, and then you have Miller as a wide receiver 3, which is what my expectation is of the rosters, because like what Mooney's done last year is basically like he's changed the tradition of the former wide receivers, setting the targets and all of that, getting receptions and all of that, and the yards and total and all that. So all that's great. Good looking for Mooney to be the wide receiver 2 of this team. Where I placed Miller on this team as a wide receiver 3, and I'll tell you why. It's just because why I think, like, I understand Justin Fields is here, but just going back to my point that, like, if Andy Dalton has to start, like, say till like week 9, all right, Chicago Bears organization doesn't think that Justin Fields is ready, even though granted that we're seeing the reports out there. I do think Andy Dalton can get the ball to Anthony Miller out there. I mean, like, you have to realize like what Dalton was able to do behind a poor offensive line with Cooper out in Dallas. He was able to put up some yards. He was able to put up some numbers. I mean, granted, some of it was in garbage time. Some of it was in, I guess, real game time. But, I mean, from what I've seen, like, just like different spots of like highlights of Andy Dalton, just in case of like Justin Fields to start right away from the get-go on week 1, I mean, there is some hope that if Dalton can get the ball to Miller can, hopefully break free and get some yards after the catch and stuff. So that's what I'm looking for. Obviously, I already know the athleticism of like, Justin Fields and all of that, and his ability to, pick his wide receiver out for him to throw it to. I mean, you've seen it at Ohio State and all of that. But, just in case if he doesn't come out there earlier, Dalton has got to, look at Miller at the underneath routes, what Jared is making a great point here is because, like, Miller is going to have this opportunity to, like, take a 5-yard jab in the middle of the field and just take the ball and go for like 15 yards, like on a 2-minute drill, and Mooney is going to be distracting the safety and Miller will be open. And like, Swifty, I love this guy. I expect Daz Newsome to push Anthony Miller for some playing time before the injury, of course, man. I mean, like, I think Daz, like, he's going to be ready by training camp because of that broken collarbone injury. So, I mean, I'm hoping for him to actually, make a difference by like week 1 or 2. I mean, it all comes down to like what the organization, who they want to start. But like, just in case, going back just in case, going back to like my original point, it's just because what if we think Dalton starts and we don't see Fields until after the bye week? Like, like what if the Bears
Is someone's house is on fire?
We're making pizza. It's done. Yeah. But like, yeah, the point was like, I mean, when me and you said we harp on this all the time on Fireside Bears, is like, if Andy Dalton starts, which I think he does, granted whatever Justin Fields does in training camp, I think the organization is going to be stand still on what they want because they paid this guy a decent amount of money. So they're going to ease into this guy just like Glennon with Trubisky. So, I mean, we may not see as like the dynamics of the offense until later.
Yeah,
so I want to.
Yeah, it's the journal. You're
It's
actually
not delivering.
Right.
It's the journal.
Yeah. Yep, it's the journal's piece.
So I just wanted to drop this into this conversation. We were talking about Tevin Jenkins earlier, and I think a big part in this past game and Anthony Miller's success will really depend on the run game.
I hope
And I
so,
think
Swift.
we all, and especially once Field starts playing, they're going to have to lean on David Montgomery. I mean, they have Damian Williams now, and they also have Tariq Cohen coming back. So it's not like Montgomery is going to need 30 carries a game, but they're going to need to run the ball a lot compared to what they usually do. And a lot of what Matt Nagy wants to do is play action. So I think, not to harp on the Mitch situation, but I think Trubisky, when not in rhythm, missed a lot of those deep shots when asked to go through play action. I mean, Foles missed them too. Those are the kill shots you have to hit that where you hope Justin Fields can hit when he's here in Chicago. And I mean, Anthony Miller's the type of guy that maybe he catches one or two of those a game, and that that's going to boost his stats significantly. A 40-yard bomb, a 60-yard bomb per game. And how many times have we seen the Bears quarterback overthrow this guy when he's going down the middle of the field wide open? And I really think exactly. So like the run game is key to getting Anthony Miller going, in my opinion, because I think that action is just such a big part of this offense. I mean, what do you guys think about that, and what do you have to add to that?
So I believe I mentioned this I think on Fireside Bears, but just with David Montgomery. Look, he has such untapped potential right now. There was if you go back and you watch the film, you saw 2019 was just kind of like a foundational year for what David Montgomery could do. And then you go into 2020 and you realize that what he did, he left a lot out there on the field and a lot left to be desired simply because the Bears did not their offensive line was so inconsistent. And then you look at just running a 2-quarterback system last year. The issue with that was that you were running a scheme with Mitch Trubisky that wanted you to run the ball more. But then you were running a scheme with Nick Foles that wanted you to pass the ball more and be a pass-first offense. And in the 7 games, for those of you guys watching that don't know, in the 7 games that Nick Foles started, the Bears rushed for 100 or more yards 0 times. And then they rushed for 50 or more yards just 3 times. So they didn't even eclipse 100 yards rushing when Nick Foles was the starting quarterback. And then all of a sudden, the second half of the season, when Trubisky comes back in that Week 12 game against Green Bay, you see the entire running game just completely take off. And why? Because their offensive line was more suited to run the ball anyway, not be a pass-first offense. And so naturally, going into 2021, one of the things with Montgomery is he's learning now to run. He's learning to be a home run hitter, essentially, because that was one of the big things coming out of Ohio State. A red flag was that he would always get to that second, that third level, but he lacked that breakaway speed. And over at the Bear Report podcast, we actually had a chance to sit down with the speed guy the speed coach and the trainer that Montgomery's working with this offseason, Chris Corfist. And one of the things that Chris said regarding David Montgomery was just that, hey, we've noticed that with him, he was running in such a way where his pelvis, right, would be like, his pelvis was kind of like inconsistent. Go listen to the interview. It's like 30 minutes. Chris is going to be able to describe it better than me. But now Montgomery, what he's basically doing is this. He's learning to become like a more complete runner so he can have those, he can get to the second and third level and just absolutely break away. So we know that he's a phenomenal football player, and he's an even better athlete, and he's really going to be a much more complete running back. I see Swift here says that's the same reason our run game will be better with Fields and Dalton, RPOs and meshes. Yeah, so Swift, that's an excellent point before I let these, AJ, Luke, and Juan go here. The reality is this: is you're gonna see now because of more stable quarterback play, and I talked about this earlier, just an uptick in offensive production. And that means that the faster your quarterback is able to process what the defense is doing and what's going on, there's going to be a split second where Fields or Dalton, especially Fields, they're not necessarily even going to have to think about should I hand the ball off here or should I throw the ball, right? And so that RPO game for the Bears, you're finally going to see it stabilize because the last couple of years under Foles and under Foles and Trubisky, what it's been is it's just been the story of missed opportunities because of inconsistent quarterback play for the Bears offense. And so the RPOs should be back with Montgomery and Fields. And trust me, like I said a moment ago, if you thought Montgomery was good in 2020, then you have no idea what he could do with a stable offensive line and stable quarterback play. And then, yeah, Damien Williams on third downs. Damien Williams is great, but I will be honest with you guys regarding Damien Williams. I mean, keep an eye out for some guy named Khalil Herbert to push Damien Williams for playing time.
I just want to make a really random announcement. I just opened my very first imported German beer.
Mm-hmm.
Hot
And
press.
yes,
I love it.
Yes, and I don't know if you guys
I've been to that place. It's awesome, actually.
and I don't know if you guys saw my reaction, but I took a sip of it and it completely 100% caught me off guard. I was like, just because I am not used to drinking. So that is the beer. I'm just not used to it. But again, I picked it up at the Friday Night Fish Friday night. But anyway, back to Bears talk. I'm sorry.
I just want to drop this little tidbit in here. I mean, I was doing some research on some fantasy analysis, and I just want all the if you're listening out there, I was doing a little comparison between David Montgomery and Taylor from the Colts. And David Montgomery had more yards and more receptions than Jonathan Taylor, and it seems like Jonathan Taylor in fantasy is going way higher than Montgomery. So if you have Montgomery available in the 4th, 5th round of fantasy drafts, absolutely take him. I would take him over a guy like Jonathan Taylor every day of the week, especially for his ADP. So I just wanted to drop that little tidbit in there. I think this will be a huge year for Demont and the Bears, and that is just not the homerism and he's saying that. I really do believe Montgomery will perform very well for us this year.
Yeah, it's one of the things I'll say regarding fantasy football is the Bears players, besides Allen Robinson, they really seem to be slept on. So, hey, if you're looking for someone in the flex, I mean, keep an eye on Montgomery. If you're looking for someone at RB2, David Montgomery is going to be your guy. And then also, you're going to see Darnell Mooney slip because if you look at that 2020 rookie class, I mean, we obviously know all the attention went to Justin Jefferson. And I'm not going to discount anything that Justin Jefferson did. But, hey, in Green Bay, you've got Devontae Adams and then everyone else. Detroit, you really don't have a number one wide receiver going into this year because they lost Kenny Golladay. But Darnell Mooney is going to be a guy that I think a lot of people outside the Bears fan base right now clearly have no idea who he is, and they're not necessarily keeping tabs on him. So if you get Darnell Mooney and David Montgomery in the mid-rounds, especially Mooney, because he's going to slip, trust me, then draft him without hesitation.
Absolutely.
I wanna touch base on something else, guys, while we're still on here, and it's the issue of the Chicago Bears relocation effort or the lack of effort. I want to get your guys' opinions on this because this is actually something that I actually have not talked about this at all on any of my podcasts or segments, and that is this continued effort to get the Chicago Bears out of downtown Chicago on Lakeshore Drive, pull them out, put them in the suburbs, build a whole new stadium, make it a whole beautiful thing in the suburbs. Call the Arlington Heights Bears, call it the Suburban Bears, the whatever name you want to throw on there. I mean, it's a whole big deal that some people are up in arms about it. No, you can't leave Chicago, you can't leave Soldier Field. It's an iconic stadium. Then you got other people, obviously, on the other side of the aisle. Get the hell out of Chicago. Go somewhere where it's very much more accessible. Traffic isn't a nightmare because, as you all know, getting out of Soldier Field is a complete 100% nightmare. on game day?
Uh,
Do we
I mean, I can
move?
go-
Do we
I
move?
can-
Do we not move? Dude, go for it.
I feel fairly strongly about this, but I feel like I also can be easily discounted because I'm not a fellow Chicagoan. For me, my personal experience being not from Chicago and only getting to see maybe one game a year, I have to say, just when you fly in, when you fly into Chicago, the first thing you see is the lakefront, and it's absolutely beautiful. I think the setting of Soldier Field is probably amongst the best in the NFL. I really don't think you can beat that. I don't think you can put a price on it. I think the weather there being unpredictable is 100% football and awesome. And for me, being able to ride the train into the city, I think is an awesome experience that you could share with fellow Bear fans. So you don't have to worry about parking and you don't have to worry about drinking and driving or anything like that. So from those perspectives, I personally want to leave Soldier Field where it is, and I think the Bears should either renovate it or knock it down and build a new stadium on that same plot of land. And this is just coming from a purely, I would say, kind of selfish perspective of this, because Chicago could benefit a lot from it. They could host Super Bowls and Final Fours and the whole 9 yards if they built maybe a retractable dome in the suburbs. Fine. In my personal opinion, though, from a football perspective, it is such a home field advantage to be playing on the lakefront with unpredictable weather, especially when it gets super cold out. If you invite a team like the Buccaneers or a warm weather team to Chicago when the games count, they're going to struggle. It's going to be cold, and guys like Drew Brees and just Drew Brees is a perfect example. Outside of his dome, his record is really not good. You bring him to a place like Chicago in the playoffs, that is a tremendous advantage. For me, I don't think like the Vikings and Lions have a home field advantage like that because playing in a dome, you're playing in very modified conditions. So to me, I think it means a lot, the home field advantage, and I think the location is just beautiful. To Jared's point, it is the small stadium in the NFL, so the Bears should try and do something to make it bigger. But I don't know how you can do that. It's kind of an already
It's not
structure
feasible.
like that.
It's
Not
not
really,
feasible.
but
not
I would
in
also have to
Chicago,
say-
not where it's there. I mean,
I would also have to say to that, I've sat all the way up top, and it really wasn't a bad seat. I felt like I could still see everything fine, and it was a decent seat. So, you guys might have a completely different opinion, and that's fine, but that's mine. Just personally, I love Soldier Field where it's at and the whole 9 yards about it.
I'll go next if you guys don't mind.
Sure.
But AJ's like, F it, just go. Here's my whole
Go
thing,
ahead, bud.
right? If they're gonna do this, right? If they actually want to be serious and get the Bears out of Chicago, right? So sorry, I see some of the comments. Gotta raise your hand. If the Bears want to get out of Chicago, they need. I want them to keep everything the same. So I still want it to be called Soldier Field wherever it is that they go. I think that name is iconic, as and God damn it, Jared. they gotta keep that name, and it's only because Soldier Field. You think about it, when I think of Soldier Field, not only do I think about the Chicago Bears, who are obviously that's their home stadium. I think of the military and the servicemen and women and how much that stadium means on important days like Veterans Day and Memorial Day and all of these national holidays that we use to recognize our servicemen and women. They need to keep the name if they're going to do it, if they're going to make that move. Now, if they go out to the suburbs, right, there are so many more advantages than staying deep in downtown Chicago. More feasible transportation, right? You can get on a train, you can hop on the metro, you can, whatever it is. The tollway's right there. You can easily just get in and out of the city really quick. I mean, the traffic, I'm assuming, would be a little bit lighter, obviously, instead of going all the way into downtown Chicago. I mean, and again, what I forget if it was Luke or AJ who mentioned this, but being able to use the field, the stadium, with more versatility, hosting more events, Big Ten competitions, soccer, whatever it may be. with a retractable roof, I think that would just, I mean, it would just add so much more value to a stadium in the long run of things. I mean, it's I think that the benefits outweigh the negatives on this topic. That's my thought. Again,
Well,
go ahead.
let me
Whoever's
just
talking.
ask.
Go ahead.
Let,
Go
let
ahead.
me just ask you though.
Uh-huh.
Like I said, the as you stated, the benefits are tremendous to that. But from just a fan's perspective, that benefits the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois, obviously. But from a selfish perspective of your own, that do you really care if they're able to host Final Fours and Super Bowls and that things of that nature, or
I
are
am
you more
more
worried about your viewing preference and experience?
So I am more worried about accessibility for people in the suburbs and for people who are traveling outside of the actual city of Chicago. Because it is a nightmare to get down to Soldier Field. I mean, you can't deny that, right? It's for people who are coming into the city, it's difficult. I mean, parking down there is atrocious, number one, right? This is more than just what I want to see the stadium host, right? This is for the fans, like the fan experience. You know how it's not in a very feasible location. That's my whole thing, right? I could care less what the hell they do inside the stadium, right? If they
Sure.
want to use it for basketball, go for it. If they want to use it for soccer, go for it. I can give a rat's ass what they want to do with the stadium itself. I just want to make sure that the people or the fans of the Chicago Bears who want to go watch their team, that they're able to do that, and that they're able to properly even, I know Nick just dropped a comment in here about the tailgating.
The comments
Hell-
are cracking me up.
Yeah, I know the comments are ridiculous. I want to see when the Buffalo Bills come into the Windy City. I want to see some tables be smashed in half. I mean, come on, like that. Go
One
on.
thing I will say about just being from the Philadelphia area, the sports stadium complex they have there, they have the hockey and basketball arena, the Wells Fargo Center. They have the baseball stadium, Citizens Bank Park, and they have the Eagle Stadium, Lincoln Financial Field, all in the same venue. So basically, it just creates a whole parking lot of an area to tailgate and the whole 9 yards. Basically, like 3 separate parking lots combined into one massive area, which is super cool. I've always thought that was pretty unique about that specific area. But you're right. I mean, that is definitely part of the fan experience that's important. And you want fans to be able to enjoy the time before the game, before they walk into the stadium, and not have to walk that huge amount.
I completely understand the argument about the. I know Nick said something. Oh, here, wait, let me put up the comment real quick. He made a comment about going to Soldier Field and seeing the view of the city. Chicago is beautiful. All right, I think that Chicago is the most beautiful city in the whole country. That's my opinion, right? The skyline is beautiful. There's everything you could ever want is in the Windy City. I get it. I completely 100% get it. But again, we need to look at the bigger picture here, which is more than just getting those nice views and getting all the the whole Instagram worthy views and whatnot. Again, accessibility, guys. I mean, that's what it comes down to. Like, you need to have a stadium that's more accessible for people, and it needs to be bigger. It needs to be a nice state-of-the-art stadium. I mean, it's just, I know I'm seeing comments about the turf. Yeah, the turf, obviously we've seen the way the turf gets over there. I mean, that goes without saying, guys. Why not modernize and upgrade and get something better? I think the Bears, as being the one of the oldest franchises in the league, I think that they deserve that. To be quite honest with you, they deserve a state-of-the-art stadium.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah, see, it's definitely a complicated situation because, take a look at a team like the Cowboys, for example. They got a new stadium about 11 years ago, and that's owned by the Cowboys ownership. And then the Rams, they have the newest stadium in the NFL, and that's built and owned by Rams ownership. But the problem with Chicago is that this entire Soldier Field does not belong to the McCaskey family. Okay, it belongs to the city of Chicago and the Chicago Park District. Now, what you're running into here is, could you upgrade Soldier Field? Yeah. But then, could you make a new stadium? Okay, that's feasible as well. But really, moving to Arlington Heights, that makes no sense. Okay, because then you're in a
Thank you.
situation. The problem with moving to Arlington Heights, man, is that one of the big things with the Bears, and that's always been associated with the Bears, is just the experience that comes with playing and being directly in the city of Chicago. Because if you go to Soldier Field, if you're not in Chicago right now, I'm going to tell you something right now. If you're in Chicago on game day, I'm not even going to lie to you. Like, the only thing you see is a sea of like Bears jerseys. I mean, that's about it, because this team is so committed to the Bears as just as a franchise in general. Now the reality is, moving to Arlington Heights, man, that makes absolutely zero sense. All right, someone I know,
So pick a different suburb then,
but like,
or pick a different part of the city. So
Here's the thing, though.
So it
The-
doesn't.
the-
Well, it doesn't have to be Arlington Heights. It doesn't have to be Arlington.
The
It can be
issue-
It can be anywhere.
The issue goes back to when Richard Daley was the mayor of the fine city of Chicago.
Mhm.
And like, there's still the article is still out there, the Chicago Tribune. Like, if you just search McDome, still best for the Bears. Richard Daley told the McCaskies that, hey, I mean, the McCormick place is right there. Where you tailgate right now in the South Lot, that's where the McDome would be. And then whatever is behind it is all parking. Like, the Field Museum would be pushed back a little bit. Everything would be pushed back because the Field Museum, it started constructing, I believe in the early 2000s. Correct me if I'm wrong. Like, I think I went there in 2003 on a field trip too, and it was brand spanking new. But like, they said this like 24 years ago. Richard Daley pointed this out, and like he said this, like, they don't belong in Arlington Heights, they don't belong in Roselle, they don't belong in Gary. Like, there was that rumor a little while back that the Bears should move out to where Notre Dame is. Like, that was immediately debunked because, like, where the market would be, like, it would be somewhere near Notre Dame, like near in like South Bend or something like that. But like, yeah, he said Warrenville would be ruled out, Hoffman Estates would be ruled out, or most recently Elko Wills would be ruled out. So where would they exactly move? Naperville would be that would be garbage. Like, having a professional football team in Naperville, that would just be weird. Gary, Indiana, Jared, that would just be like that's what he said all the way back in '99 when he was the mayor. But I mean, what you could do. I mean, this is just my opinion. I mean, you're stuck, right? The Bears won't do anything until 2032. Break ground on any construction until they pony up and pay the lease that they owe. I do agree that you need turf because the players that you have, because we're going to like more of a spread offense and more of a faster offense. I agree to all of that, but the problem is, I don't think the city is the problem. I think it's just the Bears are just screwed into the stadium because instead of doing the McDome thing, what they did to Soldier Field in '99 and they passed it, they renovated it, which is the spaceship looking thing. And then in 2015 or 2019 or whatever, that new scoreboard went up.
Mhm.
That's the second renovation. But you said, do you remember any other renovations that we did since 2002? We didn't really do anything. We just added the decks, and that's basically it. Like, what you could have done to old Soldier Field in '99, you could have just built on top of it. Like, like add more beams. Like, there was no reason to keep the 1985, the 1985 stairs on it. Because, like, if you go to Soldier Field and you go to one of the end zones, right, you see the stairs and they're all gated. Push all that back, bro. Like, come on, man. Like, make some space, bro. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, I just think, like, moving, you can't because you have 9 years on this lease or 10 years or whatever, right? They're not going to pay themselves out of the city of Chicago lease. It's a lot of money. I mean, it's in the millions. You got to pay the parking lot too. You don't owe that either. And like, they should have just done it in '99. They should have just went with the whole McDome thing. The McDome was awesome. Like, if you look back at the 1999 things of the McDome when Richard Daley showed the McCaskies to his plans and stuff, and with some architects, with the city convention in the city of Chicago way back when, it was connected to the McCormick Place. So you had that entire thing, and the Chicago Bears just, instead of doing that 4 years later, to build a spaceship looking type thing. So that's what I think. Exactly. You're an LSU fan, Jared. I mean, look what LSU did with Tiger Stadium. They just built on top of it. I mean, everything's possible. I mean, I work in architecture, and I just think that if you just put your minds to it, expand out to this parking lot, that squiggly drive to where the players' bus enters, you can make it possible. I mean, with money, I think these days it's possible. I mean,
yeah.
you just
Here's another thing: is when you look at all these modern stadiums around the NFL, really what's happening is this, and you guys alluded to this earlier, but architects are designing these things in such a way where it's not just about what's best for the teams, but there's also a certain level of, forget even accessibility to the stadium and getting down there, because that's all a secondary issue, right? Really, the big things here when you look at these modern stadiums is that they're being designed in such a way to continue to enhance the consumer experience, because ultimately the consumers that do bring in revenue. So look at the Rams, for example. I mean, yeah, that's the newest stadium in the NFL, but consumers, when they get to go to games in 2021, they are going to have a, it's going to be a really unique experience. And so that's just another big thing to keep in mind, is just what's a consumer experience going to be like? What are you going to add in there that is going to allow for it, so the new Soldier Field, let's say, to be more than just, a football stadium? You're going to design it in such a way where you're able to have those soccer events, because then what you're looking at is you're looking at, a different broadcast booth for soccer versus the NFL, because soccer and football, their broadcast angles, they look the same, but trust me when I say this, they are two entirely different things. And then you're looking at stuff like concerts, how are you going to shift things around for when someone like Taylor Swift, for example, comes to Chicago at some point in the summer. I'm just using Taylor Swift because that's the first name that popped into my head. And the thing with the city is that they have, and the McCaskies as well, is they're basically at this point where it's just like, okay, cool, it's working, it's good enough, so this is what we're gonna roll with. Now, the other thing is this, is that the McCaskies and the city, they don't realize that with a fully updated stadium, their revenue spikes there'd be a massive revenue spike that will legitimately be through the roof. And I understand taxpayers would be like, oh yeah, well, what the hell is the point of this giant stadium, because it just stays empty for whatever X number, or I'm sorry, X times out of the year it's empty. Like people with Soldier Field right now, they're like, oh well, with the 16-game season, what it was this, is they're like, so this thing's only used 8 times a year. And this is way before the Chicago Fire even moved to the stadium. It's just like, look, if you add in more amenities and things like, making it a multi-purpose stadium, you can have Soldier Field ready to go pretty much any day of the week. And it can be the one place where you're seeing things like Super Bowls and Big Ten championships, as well as, soccer events, things of that nature interested. And going back to the retractable roof thing, it's interesting because, the World Cup, I believe, is coming. The FIFA World Cup's coming to the United States, and I think 2026. And Chicago was originally supposed to be one of the host cities, but then that didn't happen. And it didn't happen because the city just refused to build a retractable roof at Soldier Field. And so really what you're seeing is it's like everything that the fans want, and they're like, this needs to happen. Every time it's been brought to the forefront, the city's been like, nope, we're not going to invest money into it.
Ladies and gentlemen, my co-host Wyatt from On Point Discussion has joined the show. He is also a Bears fan. For those who are watching, appreciate all the comments that are coming in. We got a lot of comments over here, and I'm trying to get through all of them. But you can drop us a comment, drop us where you're watching in from, where you're tuning in. We got Luke, we got Usaid, we got AJ. Now we've got Wyatt joining us, who's also another fellow Bears fan. Again, my co-host on Point Discussion every single Monday night. We are talking and breaking down the Chicago Bears, breaking down the possible move to the suburbs, whether or not they should even move in the first place. A lot of stuff to talk about. Again, drop us a comment. Where are you tuning in from? Your thoughts on the potential move outside of downtown Chicago. If you're a rival fan of one of the other divisional sports teams, the Lions, the Vikings, the Packers, who of course none of us like at all. We hope Aaron Rodgers retires. Drop a comment in the chat. We'll do our best to read. Wyatt, how are you? How's it going, man? It's really odd to see. It's really odd to see you on a Friday night. I never see you outside of either our Monday night stream or our Wednesday night shows. What's going on? And you are on mute, sir.
Not much. See, that's a rookie move. Not much. Baby's sleeping, so I was able to hop on. How are you guys doing?
We're doing pretty good. And again, we've got it's all Bears right now. So we're in a safe place. We're all good. we're all
in a
here
safe
friends,
place.
in a safe place. We don't have any, usually Julius would be on, with us
In
and
the broadcast.
and we would have Rhino with us, and we'd have some animosity between our fellow NFC North rivals. But no, today it's all Chicago Bears. We're having a good discussion here. I want your thoughts, though, Wyatt, since you just jumped on. I don't know how much you've listened into the show, but we are talking about this potential move right into the suburbs. Do we, do the Chicago Bears go out and build something in the suburbs? And again, the big topic of discussion has been Arlington Heights, right? Obviously, it doesn't have to be Arlington Heights. I mean, it can be any suburb. It can be the northern suburb. I mean, hell, it could be Evanston for all I care. I mean, just outside of the stuff,
be cool.
Skokie, outside of the city limits of Chicago. I mean, do the Bears go with that, or do they stay? Hypothetically speaking, of course.
I don't live in Chicago, and a couple of you do, and some of you are close by. Whenever I go to Chicago, I mean, I like the iconic stadium, Soldier Field. I know the remodel. A lot of people don't like it. What I like about Soldier Field is I know the capacity is small, and I like the nosebleed seats. Like, I like to sit all the way at the top, and I know it feels weird because it feels like you're hanging over the stadium, but it feels like you're still so close. But I think you're right. Eventually, other teams are going to build newer stadiums. The Bears can't stay at Soldier Field forever. They're going to have to build a bigger stadium. You see St. Louis, you see the Los Angeles Rams, you see the Raiders Stadium, you see that experience that Usaid was saying, and I think eventually you're going to have to do that. The thing is Chicago going to be willing to? Are they going to do everything in their power to keep them in Chicago come 2032? Are the McCaskies going to be willing to move, or the McCaskies even going to be the owners? Because I know there's been talks about, there's some strife in between, when Virginia McCaskey passes away, are they going to be able to keep that? So if you get, for example, if you get Jeff Bezos over here buying the Bears, he's going to want the biggest, the baddest stadium. So you're going to see something like that. But if the McCaskies exactly. McCaskey stay, I feel like they might want to stay at Soldier Field. They might strike a new deal. They might try to make the stadium a little bit with more capacity. I love the iconic stuff. I love Fenway Park. I love Soldier Field. I love those iconic stadiums. But eventually, time's going to pass you by, and you're going to have to build a bigger new stadium. You're going to want a Super Bowl in Chicago. You're not going to ever have it at Soldier Field because it's too small. So I agree with you. Eventually, they're going to have to do another stadium. If it's going to be Arlington Heights, be it Arlington Heights. I don't know where that is, guys. I'm sorry. I'm not from Chicago. Nice. It sounds like it's a new up-and-coming place near Chicago. How far?
Oh, it's really not Wyatt, though.
Okay. Oh, you're on mute. Sorry.
Oh, I am?
Is there any...
Oh,
no,
okay.
me. I'm sorry. Is there any truth to the Bears possibly having to change their name if they were to move to Arlington Heights, like where they have to become the Arlington Heights Bears? I've heard both sides of the coin on that. I'm not sure what is true. I mean, obviously, the Arlington Heights Bears sounds like literally a backyard baseball team. Like, that's something you would name your team in backyard baseball.
No, and I'm gonna kibosh whoever started those rumors, because that's just first things first. Whoever started that rumor, I'm just gonna be a savage and say this, that you need to get better at spreading rumors, okay? But the reality of the situation is that they're not gonna change their name to the Bears aren't gonna change their name to the Arlington Heights Bears, all right? I mean, the Chicago Bears, right? It's almost like it's just, it's just like Nike, man. It's like Adidas. It's like Reebok, or any other like Fortune 500 or prominent brand like Starbucks, for example. When you see that orange C with the white outline, you know automatically it's the Bears. Okay, it's the Bears are an iconic figure of the NFL. Now the reality is they're not going to change their name to the Arlington Heights Bears. I mean, if you're going to tell me that they could possibly change their name to the Arlington Heights Bears, you know what? Then why haven't teams like the Arizona Cardinals, who play in Glendale, Arizona, because their stadium's in Glendale, Arizona, why haven't they changed their name to the Glendale Heights Bears? Or I'm sorry, the Glendale
Cardinals. Yeah.
Cardinals. Right. Same thing
Yeah.
with the 49ers.
Right. I just
49ers
heard that. I just heard that if they were outside of the city,
It's a city in Arizona. That's why.
I didn't.
Or New York, New
Yeah,
Jersey.
I didn't
Giants,
know if there was any truth.
New Jersey Jets.
Yeah, they're actually like the East Rutherford Giants and Jets, but what I had heard though is not that they would want to change it, is that they would have to change it because Chicago had some kind of legal aspect in the naming. If they were outside of the city boundaries, they wouldn't be able to use that. I was just unsure of if there was any truth to that at all. I mean, it didn't sound right, but
yeah, it's one of those things, right, where when the current lease is up, that you would have to go back and like rework the agreement, especially if not even rework the agreement necessarily, but just rework the language associated with whatever that clause may be, because then that condition may be, because then what would have to happen is it's just like it would make no sense for whoever the ownership is in about a decade at this point to even rework and rename, because then you're looking at like new logos, new merchandise, new, like you could keep the logos and stuff, but it would just be like new wording. So your t-shirts that would say like Chicago Bears on them, like Chicago Bears football, I mean, all that stuff would go completely out the window, and then all of a sudden now you're stuck like redesigning any of your merchandise that does have like Chicago on it, and then the NFL would have to get involved because you would have to like rename some stuff too. I mean, look at the Washington football team. They literally dropped the name the Redskins, had to go through like an entire rebranding basically. So it's something that just like absolutely does not make sense. Like, okay, the Arlington Heights Bears. And another thing people have to note is that a team like the 49ers, for example, okay, so they play their games, I think, in like what is suburban San Francisco. So
Santa Clara County.
Right,
but it's
so
a city in San Francisco. That's the thing. That's the reason why they get to keep their name, San Francisco 49ers.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason why the Arizona Cardinals are called the Arizona Cardinals is because they play in Arizona, and they are in the biggest county in Arizona, Maricopa County.
So
yeah.
There's
There's ways around it. Like you can get like, I'm pretty sure the McCaskies have pretty decent lawyers to be like, yo, we want to keep our name, because like the only reason why the Oakland Raiders will be able to change their name because they moved to a city in Nevada, right? But Las Vegas Raiders makes more sense than the Oakland Raiders do. But like, go on, you say. But there's so many workarounds in all of this. I think. I mean, the name can be kept.
It's just like here's the thing, and I tweeted this when the whole stadium thing came out, because the guy who wrote the article, you guys should know something, that the Daily Herald's basically a local newspaper that's like based out here in the western suburbs, okay? Now, as soon as I saw it, I was just like, okay, so we're at the slow part of the year again, where post-NFL draft, first or second week of May, we're waiting for rookies to report to minicamp. There's not really much going on, so we're going to talk about the Bears relocating. And I mean, it just seems like every single year right after the draft, when it is super slow, what happens is this issue of Bears ownership tends to, and what the McCaskies are going to do is the team moving to Arlington Heights to build something on the racetrack or whatever the old racetrack may be. I don't know. I haven't been to Arlington Heights in like 5 years, even though it's like 30 minutes from me. But this whole thing comes up, and it's just like, all right, just admit that you guys are bored and there's nothing to talk about. Now, I do not see the Bears moving to Arlington Heights, number one. Number two, I don't see any sort of name change like coming anytime soon, because the NFL seemingly wants to keep the Bears in Chicago, because they know that, the Bears Packers, they know the value that the Bears bring to the NFL just in terms of the name brand. I mean, how many other teams can you look at and you can be like, hey, that team right there, like the Seattle Seahawks, for example, that's a team that like, or I don't know, the Detroit Lions, that's a team that like immensely adds value to the NFL brand in general. You can't say that about a lot of teams. You can say it about the Bears because they've been part of the NFL for so long.
I think me and Juan can attest to the Detroit Lions decreasing the value of the NFL,
Yeah,
not increasing. Yeah.
Terrible
Well,
franchise. Sheila
that's-
Ford should never be like. She should never be an owner at all.
Yeah, but
Just give it up. Just give it up, Ford family. It's over.
the thing is, we talk
Hey,
so
guys.
much. Let me
Go
make
ahead.
this
You
point.
said finish your thought. Finish your thought.
Yeah, I'm just gonna make this point regarding the Lions. What's crazy about the NFC North, and I've noticed this so much on Twitter, and I don't get into Twitter beefs anymore because it's not worth it. Especially after Lions Guru went missing for whatever reason.
Oh
He was
my
very
God.
entertaining to mess around with in 2019. But anyway, it's interesting because it's just like Bears, Vikings, and Packers Twitter. We're always going at it, but one thing I think no one said is, hey, if there's one thing the three fan bases can agree on, it's that the Lions absolutely suck, and that Lions Twitter is just so irrelevant.
True
And
that.
I'm sorry in advance, Julius. You can text me later today if you want to talk, because I know he's got my number.
Ladies and gentlemen, guys,
Yeah.
we are approaching 8. I mean, it's like 8:17 Central. Let's go ahead and start wrapping it up here. I'm out of beer. I'd like to go get another
I
beer.
was just gonna say, I
Yes.
unfortunately have to go into work tomorrow. Work a Saturday shift.
But
I gotta log in tomorrow too myself.
Mhm.
Did you guys
it's
talk about
okay.
Aaron
It's
Rodgers?
okay.
no, we did not get to Aaron Rodgers.
Okay.
That'll be another episode. Maybe on Monday we can talk Wyatt, and we can always invite the guys back to come on and do another one of these episodes.
Right. Yeah, guys, this was awesome. I just wanted to say thank you to Wyatt, to Usaid, to AJ, obviously to Juan for coming on here. Tonight was just supposed to be a solo beer review for me, and it turned into this, which was totally awesome.
Mhm.
We talked an hour and a half about beers and then the Bears. So a great Friday night. I can't complain.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
did just want to say, right now, if many of you don't know, I'm a Mets fan. The Cubs play the Mets after the Padres series here. So if you guys have the chance, seriously, watch Jacob deGrom pitch. If you're a
Dude, I
Cubs fan,
love
if you're a
that
Chicago
guy.
fan, take the opportunity in. He's
50 on
pitching
him earlier
tonight.
today.
He threw 6 innings. He had a 1-hitter. He had 10 more strikeouts in 6 innings. This guy has a .56 ERA and is batting .400 this year. I'm not just saying this to brag. Like, this is literally absolute history. And if you're a baseball fan, I think you should take it in. This guy is just phenomenal. Right now, he's probably in the lead for both the Cy Young and the MVP. So if you're a Cubs fan or in just Chicago, tune in and just watch him. It's absolutely fantastic. It's great for the game of baseball, and I don't know how you can't enjoy watching the guy play. I just wanted to add that in there. Take it for what it's worth, but I think if you like baseball, you really enjoy that.
Absolutely. And yes, for everyone who tuned in tonight, to everyone who dropped the comment, Nick, Andy, Jared, Swift. I don't know his whole name, but he knows who he is.
Swift.
Yeah, Swift. We'll call him Swift. We'll call him Swift. At the very beginning, I saw Adam, our fellow lounger, Adam. To everyone who dropped a comment, who decided to watch us tonight, my sincerest, appreciation. Thank you so much for making this little Friday night episode a special one. Follow me at Bears Fanatic 194, Luke at LBerry_40. You can follow the Mugs and Chugs page at Mugs Chugs Lounge. Follow the network at Lounge Room Net. Wyatt at the Cornelia7. Usaid at Usaid. Is it Koshal?
Yes, it is. You got it right.
Yes. At AJ Desai for my dude AJ up there on the top right corner. Ladies and gentlemen, the Friday Night Live show has come to an end. Thank you so much again for tuning in. I hope everyone has an awesome weekend. Make sure to drink plenty of cold beer. Swift there is saying Swift is what most people call me. Okay, awesome. That means I got it right. If I'm right, everyone's beautiful. I'm beautiful. Everything's good. Nick, thank you so much
Juan,
for
you forgot to
commenting.
plug
Great
our-
show.
You forgot to plug our Bears podcast at Monsters Lounge. If you aren't following us, please follow
at
us.
Monsters Lounge. At Monsters Lounge. Nick says that we need more La Bum and Aaron Rodgers debate next time. Yes, next time
I'll bring it next time.
Next time we'll come on and do this. But in the meantime, have a great night, everyone. Stay safe, stay healthy. Drink plenty of cold water this weekend. It's going to be hot as hell up here in the Midwest, doing 90 degrees and humid all weekend. Enjoy the summer, guys. Get out to the beach, get out to the pool. Have a good night, stay safe, and we will see you all very soon. Talk to you all later.